Redditors who live or work in very wealthy communities, what's the most pretentious behavior you've witnessed? When I visited my aunt in Beverly Hills, she was embarrassed when, upon arriving at her house, I said hi to the Japanese gardener working in front. We don't do that around here. I had a couple go out of their way to say that they were not going to order wine that night because they wanted Sauvignon Blanc, but our glasses were obviously Chardonnay glasses. Saw a woman on her driveway barking at her maid to pick up individual leaves by hand. The worst part was that it was windy and leaves were falling at the time. I work in a private elementary school. Tuition is about $35,000. I don't remember the exact context, but I had a student, about 8 years old, say that to not let help do their job would be denying them their function. For example, it's perfectly acceptable to leave your room untidy, because to leave it too neat would be denying the maid her function of cleaning. The logic is that they are helping people by giving them employment to practice their craft, thus making themselves good people. I've heard many of the parents voice similar sentiments, but not as plainly stated as the student. Back in the day, nice restaurants would actually go to the store for you for special requests. I waited tables through college at the Olive Garden, and this story came from our sister store in the upper middle class suburb 15 minutes away. The people are known for trying really hard to act like their net worth is a few zeros bigger than it actually is. Lady comes in and orders swordfish. Waiter politely informs her that it's not on the menu. Lady asks to speak with the manager. Manager repeats the same thing. B demands that someone run out and get some so she can have her fricking swordfish at the Olive Garden. Request was denied and lady stormed off. I have a friend who will give me his wrinkled bills because they are uncomfortable in his wallet. I'm not poor, but if someone hands me wrinkly money I'm gonna take it 10/10. My Italian leather wallet is so full of pristine hundreds that it makes this wrinkled 20 very uncomfortable. I think it would feel better about itself if it were in your poverty wallet. I do concrete construction. We were working in an upscale wealthy neighborhood in the North Chicago area. I pull up to the huge house we were working on with my guys. The typical manicured perfectly lawn, an array of high-end sports cars in the drive, etc. The owner of the home is in a white robe walking his little white crap dog. He's probably 70 now. My one guy Beauty I work with is an old, ugly, short Mexican guy, hence the name Beauty. Everybody loves Beauty because he's the sweetest, funniest dude ever. Anyhow, Beauty puts his little Coleman lunchbox next to the sidewalk and he continues to unload our truck for tools. Right about this time the old pretentious homeowner walks down the sidewalk with his little crap dog. The dog starts sniffing Beauty's lunchbox. I know what is going to happen next after a dog starts sniffing like that. The piece of crap homeowner knows what's going to happen next, but does he stop the dog? No. The dog lifts its leg and pees all over Beauty's lunchbox. After the dog is done peeing on my coworker's lunchbox, he silently laughs and continues walking down the sidewalk. I feel like he felt we were just scum, dirt poor construction workers and we weren't even human compared to him. The butthole just laughed. My poor co-worker's lunchbox that contained all his food for the day that his loving wife would prepare for him every morning was just peed on. Frick, I wanted to beat that guy bad. My first real job, besides mowing lawns and shoveling horse crap, when I turned 16 was working for an upscale grocery store in a very wealthy part of Scottsdale, AZ. I was on grocery bagging duty one day when an older couple came through the line. I asked the woman, the man was engaged with the cashier, if she liked paper or plastic. She was looking at me when I asked her but made no reply. I asked again thinking she may not have heard me the first time, at which point her husband broke away from his conversation with the cashier and said, "Oh, she doesn't talk to the help. Paper will be fine." I didn't realize that kind of people really existed before that incident, but I'll never forget it. I listened to a radio show, Hillman Waf, where he outlines the crime log in a weekly segment for his richer community he lives in. One lady swung by the police station to let them know she was going shopping and asked if they could send a car around to check on her house periodically. This girl who lives in a nice apartment paid by her parents, but my parents only give me $3,000 a month. This is a community college. I once worked for a filthy rich guy who deliberately park his cars in no parking zones as he'd rather pay the fine, $200 plus, than spend time to search for a decent parking spot. I used to work at a thrift store and this guy came in, who according to my co-worker was the husband of a reality TV show lady, honestly can't remember who, though, donating a moving truck's worth of really nice stuff, but was acting like a total dong about it, snapping at people, directing the guys he hired really harshly, etc. His car was parked out front at a bus stop behind the truck and after he finished everything up he went out to leave but came back a minute later holding a piece of paper. He shoved it into my hand and goes, "Here, you guys take care of this. I just donated a month's worth of your pay." It was a parking ticket. He expected us to pay for it. I saw a lady in a parking lot honk at a shopping cart to move. This probably wins the thread. I went to college at a very small private university and there were some extremely wealthy students there. Most of the ones I knew personally were perfectly nice and not pretentious at all. But there was this one girl with a massive princess complex who was very pretentious and had a hot temper and loved to mouth off at people. She had a boyfriend who was below her socioeconomic status, and she treated him like a combination pet and servant. At first the gossip was that he was a gold digger who put up with her attitude because she was wealthy, but we quickly realized that he was completely love-struck and didn't notice or care how poorly she treated him. She'd actually snap her fingers to get his attention. She wore gold bangle bracelets and would flick her wrist to jangle them when she snapped her fingers. 2. She'd look around for him, go snap 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 snap, and he'd fly to her side and see what she wanted. Her dad was politically connected, some kind of diplomat, and when she pitched a beef fit on somebody, she'd say things like, "Do you have any idea who my father is? My family owns half of the nation her parents were from." And one time she got really mouthy with some girl and told her, "If you know what's best for you, you'll shut your fat mouth because my father can make people disappear." She was like a younger version of out of control reality show Rich Housewives. I don't think anybody actually liked her, except her boyfriend, but we all wanted to watch the slow motion train wreck in action for entertainment purposes. I went to a private high school. Tuition currently is $25,000 a year. My dad managed to convince the company he worked for to pay for my schooling. Otherwise I would have never been able to attend. Things that I actually witnessed. A friend of mine wanted to learn to play the drums. One day he says, "My parents hate the sound of drumming so they bought me the house next door and it's where I play the drums." Cost in 1998 $350K. Same friend, "I feel bad that I am stealing money when my parents' friends visit." I asked him how much money did he steal. "Oh, I only steal $100 or $200. If I steal more they will notice. Last time they had a party I stole about $5K. A girl addicted to coke at age 16. This is ridiculous. I need to stop taking coke every day. It's using half of my allowance money." Her friend asked her how much she spends on coke a day. $75. Aka her allowance was $150 day. Friend of mine, "I have to have the new Sony sound system. Don't remember the series that came out, but it costs $750. I have to save up my allowance." I respond by saying, "Yeah, that will take a while." 6 days later I got it, man. I saved up my allowance. Year 1997. Another friend of mine. I am so mad. My brother got a Ferrari when he was 16. And what did they get me? A Porsche. I saved the best for last, even though I was not present for this. My school had a no bodyguards allowed in school premises rule. During Gulf War a lot of kids started coming into school with bodyguards for safety reasons. The school allowed this as long as the bodyguards stayed outside of the classroom the kids attended. Apparently 2 kids got into a fight. They both had bodyguards, so the bodyguards started fighting each other, and that's the reason why such a rule exists. This happened this weekend. I was with my highly educated friend. He invited me and my kids over for some sledding, and took us on a hill that was not kid friendly. I figured we'd be there for 2-3 hours, which we were. I then told him I had plans to hang out with another mutual friend, to which he responded, "I attended Yale and Cambridge and he's leaving me to go hang out with his high school dropout friend that works at Fridays." Couldn't wait to get out of there. Much more fun with my high school dropout friend. Why bother renting for only part of the summer? Why can't they just buy the property? Because most people can't afford one of these houses, let alone keep one as a second property. Granted, I don't think my cousin fully understood just how well off our family was at that point. I've had people tell me to park my crappy car around back of the doctor's office, where I was fixing their computers, because they didn't want people to think badly of the practice. The owner used to justify his Porsche because it added class to the facade. Really a double-edged sword here. Some law firms do it as well. Expensive office space with nice artwork, staff in expensive suits, expensive cars, etc. On one hand, it makes it look like they really know what they're doing and that they're only hiring the cream of the crop. On the other hand, it makes you wonder how much of that billable hour is going to appearances. Lindsay Lohan's mom came into the restaurant I used to work at on Thanksgiving Eve wanting to order our catered Thanksgiving dinner special. My co-worker told her sorry, you had to order in advance. Unfortunately we don't have any turkeys left to sell. She made a face like someone slapped her, asked if we knew who she was. I angrily walked away to calm my heart palpitations but stayed within earshot. I was praying for my co-worker to turn her away and then saw Lohan slip her $100. Co-worker pocketed it, ran back to the kitchen and gave her an entire 12-person meal that another family had ordered and paid for. I never understood someone saying do you know who I am if they're famous and want something in a shop or whatever that they've just been denied. There are two obvious answers to this question. 1. No, I don't know who you are so you are getting no special treatment. 2. Yes, I know who you are and I don't care. You are getting no special treatment. Worked as a manager at a music store near Beverly Hills. Saw lots of celebrities and rich people. The worst was a 15-year-old with a black Amex who would come in regularly and take his friends on shopping trips while loudly joking he was throwing away more money than the people that worked there made in a year. Loaded up his open backpack with Sensomatic tags. Not my proudest moment. A well-known real estate billionaire I know was strolling through Manhattan when he came across a PR event by Mini. He thought the cars were cute and so asked to buy one to drive home. Although they weren't officially selling the cars on display, he's not the type people say no to, and not long later they processed all the paperwork etc, hand him the keys and in he gets. Only to find he couldn't get it into gear because he just bought a stick shift car. So the staff at Mini had to teach him to drive stick then and there for him to get his new car home. I know all this because 3 months later he gave the car to my uncle. Man. I was a house painter through undergrad, worked in some pretty nice areas. On one particularly awful client's house, a buddy of mine had his ladder slip outside and he fell about 10 feet. The client came out screaming about the noise and how we had better clean up any spilt paint. I looked at her and said my buddy just fell off a ladder. I need to make sure he is okay. She just scoffed at me and stormed back inside. That bee wouldn't even let us use her bathroom. I think I might have taken a crap in her backyard. Once a client cancelled a meeting he had flown halfway across the globe for because it was raining. Jeeves, tell them they can start the sunset now. I live in the richest part of my country. A lot of the rich people convince themselves that they are nice and sympathetic to regular people because they treat them like a good subordinate. Their way of thinking is so fundamentally fricked up that they don't realize they're being condescending. Everything is looked at in a different scale. Things that would unthinkable for themselves are considered good for them. Doing crap that they would be outraged by if done to them is fine to do to them. Cutting in lines, ignoring requirements, getting advantages because they know somebody, parking illegally. Handicap spots in my neighborhood are basically rich housewife spots so it's okay I'll only be 20 minutes, etc. Paying an excellent, trusted employee barely above average and never giving them raises bonuses is okay, because for them that's a good salary. The sad part is that the mindset sort of becomes accepted by the lower classes. They basically just accept that they are a lower class citizen because this is how they've always been treated. My sister is pretty well off. She's a doctor married to a doctor, so she bought a Tesla. My mom's friend is super rich. Her husband owns a big pyro company in Hong Kong that does all the big Asian concerts. My mom's friend saw how nice my sister's Tesla was and wanted one. At the time there was a pretty long waiting list for a Tesla, but she wanted one now. She convinced her husband to pay someone twice the sticker price to let her have their Tesla. Basically the next new one that would be shipped to Toronto. My sister tried to sell her husband. My mom's friend didn't want a used one. My sister had had the car for all of 2 months. I recently bought a smaller house on the edge of a very wealthy neighborhood. My neighbor's son across the street backed into my fence and continued driving into my backyard. The fence was totaled and he just drove away. I confronted his parents about it. It was all caught on tape, and they literally said, "Oh, it's just a fence. You can afford to replace it." It's a long time ago. I used to live in a wealthy community. I had a nice house but nothing spectacular. Just an average house in a good neighborhood. There was this one kid who was a complete butthole. His parents were millionaires and it was clear he was allowed to do whatever he wants. This little crap was known in the whole neighborhood for stealing stuff from people's garages. He's the reason why no one ever left their garage doors open. And he would knock on the door, and when you opened it the sucker would just walk right in and start looking around. He did this about 3 times before I just ignored him. Butthole. I am in a business school where everyone is wealthy. I can't complain myself. And some are really rich. No, I won't go there. This neighbor whore is Africa. I'm sure they don't even speak French, talking about a neighborhood in Paris. Not even in the suburbs. I lost quite a bit of money betting. Too bad I'll have to sell my Porsche. Actually true. Heard it at the cafeteria. I was a lifeguard instructor for a country club a few years ago. I had one girl see me get into my lifted Ford truck. This was my pride and joy when I was 18. And ask why I was driving such an old truck. 10 years old. She asked what I had done with my Mercedes or BMW. I asked her what she was talking about, and she explained that when she turned 15 her parents bought her an X3 and was curious if I had wrecked it, and the Ford was my punishment. I was watching my son's JV football game against a very expensive private school. $30,000 a year. We were winning by 30 points when I heard a parent from the other team start to chant, "It's alright. It's okay. Your kids will work for us someday." When my wife was a babysitter during grad school, her phone battery had died one day and she hadn't realized it. The mother was upset that she was not able to contact her for 15 minutes, and when my wife explained that her phone is over a year old and the battery will die if something like the GPS is left on, the mother was flabbergasted that she could not just go out and buy a new phone then. "Because you don't pay me enough, you mean, old witch." I love my mom, but she grew up 1%. She was duped by my dad into marrying him, a poor man, while her sisters married well. The life skills I was taught by her: be a good girl, be pretty, make sure you marry money. What lessons I really learned: rich relatives will treat you with a mix of condescending goodwill and innocent bullying. Poor relatives will constantly tell you how much better they are than you at things like shared hobbies and school subjects. And consumer mindset is the cause of a lot of suffering. I was an office manager for a small company and the owner was rather well off. Good house in the best neighborhood. Brand new luxury camper the size of a Greyhound bus, etc. Since he started his company he has never once not received his full paycheck and weekly bonus plus reimbursements for all his meals. A couple years ago we had a really slow month. We were going to have to dip into company savings to make payroll. No big deal, we had like 6 weeks of payroll and savings. However, the day I turn in payroll he comes to me and tells me not to pay some of our employees' wage garnishments, child support and alimony, so that we could pay off our suppliers without taking any from savings. I informed him this was a felony, to which he said just don't tell anyone. We had a rather heated discussion after that. I paid everything anyway without telling him because he is an idiot and I'm not going to jail for kiting. 2 weeks later it turns out he didn't want to take out of savings because he wanted 50k to put down on a new boat. Yeah, I no longer work for the prick. I still have all the keys though, along with the security codes and remote access to the server. I've really thought about looking up some of the more unsavory types from my high school graduation class and saying, hey, go have some fun. My family lives in a lower middle class area, but we have lots of family friends in the rich side of town. Recently my mother got invited to a social gathering full of very wealthy women, the type that were divorced by their husbands to marry someone 20 years younger. My mom and I had been painting our house that day and one of the women asked aghast, "Is that paint on your hands?" during the party. It was like she had never met someone who actually works in their daily life. You have spotted this beautiful tasty sea of bacon. You can have as much as you want as long as you subscribe in the next 22 seconds. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.